Hello everybody, welcome back to Beyond the Realms. Today I'm going to be reviewing two films that are widely considered classic superhero films. Superman 1 and 2. This, of course, as you can see, has all four films, but I'm specifically only reviewing the first two films today. I've never really been a big Superman fan. Growing up, I of course grew up with these films, but it had been many, many years since I had watched either one of these. And so I sat down and watched Superman 1 last night, Superman 2 tonight, and figured, why not just, do a review, talk about them a little bit. First off, these films are very much dated, as you would expect for a film, that's... One of them is 34 years old. I believe this is 1978. Yeah, one's 34 years old and the other one is 32 years old. So as you expect, they are dated films in their effects, stuff like that. But even then, some of the stuff in this is still pretty impressive for this day. For those of you that don't know the story, Superman is on his home planet at the beginning of part 1, and basically his dad runs the whole planet. His dad is Marlon Brando. Now certain specific names I don't remember. His name is Jor-El or something like that, his dad's name. But anyway, he's been telling the people on the planet Krypton that, the planet's going to be destroyed soon. Well, actually, at the beginning, it shows them put away these criminals in this thing called a phantom zone, which basically captures them in this, mirror, and it shows them spinning and leaving, and it's actually General Zod and his henchmen, which come into play later on, the second film. But anyway, it shows them put them away, convict them, put them in the phantom zone. Then he warns everybody, Krypton's going to be destroyed. Well, none of them believe him and all this stuff. But he knows it's going to happen, so he sends his son, Kal-El, sorry about the text there, Kal-El, which is Superman. He sends him away to a planet that is, he can live on, it's very inhabitable, and he can thrive in, and that just happens to be planet Earth. He gets here, and there's an older couple that finds him, and as a little kid they see his superpowers. He can lift up a truck with no problem and all this stuff, and then when he gets in high school, he can't play football because he can score a touchdown every damn time. And so basically, he grows up, and he becomes Clark Kent. That's the name that they give, his Earth parents give him. And all along there's Lex Luthor, which is the villain in this one, and he runs in the Lois Lane and all this, working at the Daily Planet newspaper where he becomes a writer for, and so basically Lex Luthor has a plan to basically send California into the ocean and make the whole New Harbor his place, and take over everything. And Superman's like, hold on a minute, because he is for truth, justice, and the American way, as he says. And of course he has to stop Mr. Lex Luthor. Superman 1 is a fun movie. There's not a lot of stuff that happens in the film until, at the beginning, of course there is. There's some really bizarre stuff that happens. This, Krypton's like this crystal-looking place. It's very unique looking, very odd. And, then when he gets to Earth, it shows him through his whole, kid years, teen years, all this stuff. So no real action happens in it until it gets towards the end. And there's some really awesome action in this. Some really cool action sequences, I think. There's a lot of miniature work. There's this dam that is cracking and breaking, and all this water is rushing down into a village. It's all very obviously, miniature work, and there's a lot of composite shots, with Superman flying. But that's how it was at the time, But that still, none of that stuff takes away from the film itself and just being a good-hearted and well-made film. I believe it was, wasn't it Richard Donner that directed the first one? I believe. I could be wrong here. like I said, I'm by no means an expert. Yeah, Richard Donner. I'm by no means an expert on these films at all. But yeah, the first film is great. I really like the story too. It's just a wholesome, good-hearted, simple story that really, a lot of people look at the Superman film as starting, like the summer blockbuster type films. There was nothing like this at all at the time period that this came out, and nowadays, you're seeing superhero films, dominate in the summertime. But when this came out, it just wasn't heard of. So yeah, the first film, guys, is just excellent, and I really don't remember liking it as much this time as I had in the past. I really enjoyed it a lot. So yeah, really good film. Now Superman 2 picks up right where the first one left off. It actually gives you a little rundown of the entire movie, basically. Like, it shows you a little montage clips and basically wraps up the whole entire movie in like 1 minute montage. But yeah, in part 2, it's showing there's this hydrogen bomb that some of these guys have over in Paris. And, the Daily Planet's sending Lois Lane over there to get the story, and she's all really into it because she's thinking Pulitzer Prize or Nobel Prize and shit like this. So she gets over there, she gets in all kinds of trouble, and of course Superman comes and saves her ass, and he sends the hydrogen bomb into space to get rid of it so that way it won't blow up anywhere on the planet. And when it's out in space, it hits this phantom zone that General Zod and his henchmen were put into in the first film, and it releases them. Well, they end up going into the moon first, and their astronauts are there. It's kind of a comical scene in a way. These astronauts are just studying the moon, and all of a sudden, here's General Zod and his men walking around in regular clothes, and it's kind of hilarious. So, General Zod and his guys, and his guy and gal, actually, they believe that Houston is the name of the planet. They believe it's the capital because that's where all the information is being beamed from. So they come to Houston, Texas, and It's pretty hilarious though. They think that it's all the capital, of course. So they get here and they quickly realize there's no challenge for them here whatsoever. General Zod becomes very bored. So he just decides to take over the whole damn planet. He basically is saying that you're going to let me run this place or I'm going to kill millions of people. So the President of the United States, I guess somehow runs the whole planet because he gets on TV and says, "I hereby give the power of the entire world to General Zod." Since when does the President of the United States control the entire world? Well, I guess maybe in some ways. I don't know. It depends on how you look at it. But it's funny, though. It's funny shit. I mean, definitely, the United States is the most powerful man in the world. But it's just funny how they portray, the United States just runs everything in the world. But anyway, so General Zod gets control. And in the meantime, Superman is falling in love with Lois Lane, and she has all these reservations because, she loves Superman. Well, then she comes to find out that he is Superman, and so he relinquishes his powers. They go to this place at the North Pole, the fortress of some odd shit. I can't remember what it's called. But they go to this fortress, and he relinquishes his power so he can become a regular man and just live a regular life with Lois. Well, afterwards is when all this happens with General Zod. He, the president quickly says, "Help us, Superman, help us," and of course he can't anymore. So Superman, tries to get his powers back, and of course eventually he does. Of course he eventually faces General Zod and all this stuff. And, everything's wrapped up nice and neatly, in a truth, justice, and American way type of manner. And Superman 2 in credits roll with Superman ruling everything, of course, fixing everything and making everything right. Superman 2 is a good film. I like it. I really like, Lois Lane and Clark Kent's relationship in this. It's very cheesy nowadays. I mean, just everything in these films really played up cheesy, but it's more played up towards a comic book type aspect. You know, just the fun. It's not serious at all. It's definitely lighthearted. You know, it's just different than how they're done in today's world. And, you know, the whole scene in this at the Niagara Falls with Lois Lane and Clark Kent, I really like that whole sequence right there, because that's when she finally realizes that Clark Kent is Superman, because every time Superman's around, Clark Kent isn't around, and vice versa. So I really like that whole thing. You know, General Zod's cool. He's way, way over the top. It's kind of hilarious. It's comical. It's very cartoonish, but it works, you know, for the situation. You know, it's something else I have to mention too is, you know, Lex Luthor is in this. Of course, he's in prison at the beginning. He gets out. He helps General Zod. So, you know, not only is Superman having to deal with General Zod and his henchmen, he's also having to deal with Lex Luthor, which, you know, it's kind of how all these movies are done. You know, you up the ante in the sequel, and they definitely doing this. There's more stuff going on. There's more stuff happening. So, you know, it doesn't take as long to get going. But, you know, overall, Superman 2 is not quite as good as the first one, I don't think. I mean, it's pretty close. I mean, they're pretty even movies, but I would give the slight advantage to the first film. So, yeah, guys, you know, if you've never seen these films, you know, there's a Superman reboot coming out next year, Man of Steel, by Zack Snyder, which I'm really looking forward to that. I'm a big Zack Snyder fan. But if you've never seen these films, check these out before you see that. At least go into it, you know, seeing what has came before. You know, who knows if it's going to be better. I mean, you know, of course, technically it's going to be all modern, all that. But story-wise, I don't know, man. I mean, these are just, you know, the first two films are really good films. The first film, I would give it a 9 out of 10. You know, superhero fans, you know, have adored this for ages, and for good reason, because it is a good film, enjoyable. And Superman 2, I'll give it an 8 out of 10. So, yeah, I may review 3 and 4, which, you know, the quality decreases vastly with these two, and especially Part 4. But I may go ahead and review these two, possibly. It just depends on if I get time to watch them, and then, of course, get in a review. But I highly recommend checking these out, guys. These are fun films. This 4-pack, you can pick this up for like $10 or less. I think I got this for like, I think it was $9.99 at Best Buy, if I'm not mistaken. But that's a hell of a deal. I mean, you got 4 films, just fun, good films to throw in on a Sunday afternoon. You don't have anything to do, you know. So yeah, guys, that is Superman 1 and 2. With the much-loved and missed Christopher Reeves. Always cheesy, but always charismatic. That's how I will put his performance. So, yeah, guys, thanks for watching. I appreciate you guys. Have a good one.